Hello and welcome to our channel. Are you learning English? Great! Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. Let's get started.
It all started on a quiet evening. I had just turned 29, and while I was happy with my life, there was a small, empty feeling I couldn't shake. I had a good job, amazing friends, and a loving family. But deep down, I longed for someone to share it all with. I always believed in love, but it felt so far away. One day, my mother surprised me with a conversation that changed everything. She sat me down and said, "We've been approached by an old family friend about a marriage proposal." A marriage proposal? I asked, laughing nervously. She nodded. "Yes, his name is Daniel. He lives abroad, and his parents think you two might be a good match." I couldn't believe it. "Mom, you can't be serious. Marry someone I've never met. That sounds so old-fashioned." But she was serious. Then she showed me his picture. He had kind eyes and a soft, warm smile. He seemed nice, but could I really marry someone I didn't know? For days, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I talked to my friends, hoping for advice. "Just talk to him," one said. "What's the harm?" Another added. Curiosity got the better of me, and finally, I agreed to a video call. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I couldn't help feeling nervous and a little excited. That one decision would change my life in ways I never imagined. The first meeting, the day of the call, my heart was pounding. I didn't know what to expect, and a part of me was nervous about meeting someone I might marry. When his face appeared on the screen, I froze for a moment. He looked even more handsome than in his picture, but it wasn't just his appearance that caught my attention. It was his voice. "Hi," he said softly, his tone warm and gentle, like he genuinely wanted to get to know me. "Hi," I replied, tucking my hair behind my ear, feeling shy but curious. We started talking, and the conversation flowed so naturally that I almost forgot how nervous I had been. He told me about his life in New York, where he worked as a software engineer. He loved books and cooking, something I found unexpectedly charming. And when he smiled, it was as if he lit up the room. I found myself laughing at his jokes. The kind of laughter that feels effortless, the kind that makes you forget everything else. For the first time in a long while, I felt a spark, something I thought I might never feel again. But when the call ended, reality set in. Could I really marry someone I'd only seen through a screen? Sure, he was kind and funny, but was that enough? Doubt started to creep in, whispering questions I couldn't answer yet. My heart told me one thing, but my mind wasn't so sure. All I knew was that meeting him had stirred something in me, something I hadn't felt in years. It was both exciting and terrifying. The decision, the next few weeks were a blur of calls and messages with Daniel. Every conversation brought something new. His kindness, his humor, and the way he truly listened. He never rushed me or pushed for an answer. Instead, he gave me the space to feel comfortable, to figure out what I really wanted. One evening, during one of our late-night calls, he said something that stayed with me. "I know this isn't how you imagined finding love," he said, his voice steady but soft. "But sometimes love finds us in ways we don't expect." His words lingered long after the call ended. I couldn't stop thinking about them. Maybe he was right. I had always pictured love arriving in a certain way, a magical moment, instant chemistry, a perfect story. But maybe love wasn't about perfection. Maybe it was about taking a chance, stepping into the unknown. I wrestled with my thoughts for weeks. My heart felt drawn to him, but my mind kept questioning. Could I really do this? Could I take such a big leap of faith? Finally, after countless sleepless nights and long talks with my family and friends, I made my decision. I realized that sometimes life doesn't give you guarantees. It just gives you opportunities, and it's up to you to take them. So on a quiet evening, just like the one where it all began, I called Daniel. My voice trembled as I said the words that would change everything. "I've thought about it," I said, "and yes, I'll marry you." His silence lasted only a moment, but when he spoke, his joy was undeniable. "You just made me the happiest man alive," he said. And for the first time in a long while, I felt at peace. The wedding day arrived faster than I expected. It was a simple ceremony, just close family and friends, but it felt perfect in its simplicity. As I stood in front of the mirror in my white dress, I couldn't tell if the butterflies in my stomach were from excitement or fear. Maybe it was a little of both. When the music started and I began walking down the aisle, my heart raced. But then I saw Daniel. He stood there waiting for me, his eyes filled with a quiet warmth that seemed to wash away all my doubts. The way he looked at me, like I was the only person in the world, made everything else fade away. In that moment, I knew I had made the right choice. The ceremony was intimate and heartfelt. As we exchanged vows, there was a deep sincerity in his voice that moved me. We promised to learn, grow, and face life together, no matter where it took us. Later, during our first dance, he leaned in and whispered, "I don't know where this journey will take us, but I promise to be by your side through it all." His words touched something deep in my heart. I smiled, feeling a wave of peace and joy unlike anything I had ever known. That day wasn't just the beginning of a marriage. It was the start of a new chapter, one filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. As we swayed to the music, surrounded by the people we loved most, I realized that sometimes the best decisions in life come from following your heart. The stranger becomes familiar. The first few months of our marriage felt like a whirlwind full of changes and surprises. Moving in together meant discovering little things about each other, things we hadn't learned through calls or texts. I found out that Daniel loved humming while he cooked, filling the kitchen with soft melodies. It was endearing, but his habit of leaving socks everywhere, not so much. He in turn discovered that I talked to myself when I was stressed, mumbling about tasks or replaying conversations. At times it was challenging. We argued over the smallest things, how to fold laundry, whose turn it was to do the dishes, or what to watch on TV. But every argument ended with a conversation where we'd listen, understand, and compromise. Those moments of connection made all the differences. Over time, the awkwardness of living with someone new faded. The house started to feel like home, and we started to feel like a team. One evening, we were sitting on the couch, sharing a bowl of popcorn and watching a movie. The room was quiet except for the sound of the TV. Then out of nowhere, Daniel turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "You know," he said softly, "I feel like I've known you forever." His words took me by surprise, but when I looked at him, I realized I felt the same way. The stranger I had married no longer felt like a stranger. Slowly, piece by piece, we had built something beautiful, a bond that felt strong and familiar, like it had always been there. And in that moment, I knew that this was the beginning of something truly special. Looking back now, 2 years later, I can't imagine my life without Daniel. He's no longer the stranger I once worried about marrying. He's my best friend, my partner in everything, and the place I call home. Marrying someone I barely knew was the scariest decision I've ever made, but it turned out to be the best one too. What started as uncertainty grew into something deeper than I could have ever hoped for. A bond built on trust, laughter, and love. Over time, I've learned something important about love. It's not always about dramatic moments or grand gestures. It's about the little things. Showing up every day, being there for each other, and choosing to grow together. It's in the way Daniel makes me coffee just the way I like it, or how he listens to my endless stories at the end of a long day. Love isn't perfect, but it doesn't have to be. It's about two imperfect people coming together and creating something beautiful despite the challenges. So, if you're wondering whether love is worth the risk, I want to say this: it absolutely is. Sometimes it doesn't come the way you expect. Sometimes it's not the story you planned. But that doesn't make it any less real or wonderful. Taking a leap of faith with Daniel led me to a life I couldn't have imagined. And for that, I'll always be grateful. Love can surprise you if you're brave enough to give it a chance. And when it does, it's worth everything. Conclusion: as I sit here sharing my story, I can't help but feel grateful for the journey that brought me here. It wasn't easy, and it certainly wasn't what I had imagined for myself, but it was worth every moment of doubt, fear, and uncertainty. Marrying a stranger felt like the biggest leap of faith I could take. But through that leap, I found something truly special. A love that grew over time in the little moments and everyday gestures until it became the foundation of my life. Now Daniel isn't just my husband. He's my safe place, my partner, and the one who understands my heart better than anyone else. The thought that he was once a stranger feels so distant now, like it was part of another lifetime. If there's one thing I hope you take from my story, it's this: sometimes life leads you down unexpected paths, and those paths can bring you more joy than you ever thought possible. So take chances. Embrace the unexpected. Trust that love has a way of finding you, even in the most unlikely circumstances. Because sometimes the stranger you marry becomes the love of your life. I married a stranger, and it changed my life forever.